Welcome to this episode of the Million Dollar Mastermind, where we get real world insights on winning from people who have accomplished amazing things. I'm your host, Larry Weidel, and let's get going. I'm here talking with Bill Whittle from Louisiana, and I guess Baton Rouge. Is that right, Bill Whittle?
That's right. Baton Rouge, been here for 40, 50 years.
40, 50 years. And went there for college, right? Is that right?
Yeah, in 1969, left the state of Indiana, where I played high school basketball, recruited to play ball at LSU, went to school there, graduated, and went out and coached for a number of years, and then got into business after that.
So, Bill, people will know who you are. And again, we're going to, as an entrepreneur, and helping other people get in business for themselves. How many offices do you have from your brokerage firm? Let's say, your financial business. How many offices do you have, and how many states would you say you're in?
Yeah. Well, Larry, it's like ours, it's something that you've built, and then the other ones I bought out from other companies.
Right.
People decided to retire.
Yeah,
so, probably 30 different states, about 300 offices.
About 300 offices. Yeah, you're, if you can, it's nice to be able to do what Elon Musk did, and you just make enough money with your original business to go out there and buy something like Twitter.
Right.
And you did so incredibly well with your first group that put you in a position to absorb others in. That's what, successful companies do. It's a normal progression. And because not everybody is doing well. And the other thing is leadership changes. People that start companies, they don't live forever, and they get other interests. And so as you do well, that's one thing to talk about, Bill, is as you do well, opportunities open up, and you probably never expected that. And so you're probably in a surprise situation that when those things came along. Would you agree?
Well, not necessarily, Larry. I did expect it. I've never been surprised anything's happened to me in my life. I did expect it. I really mean that. I'm not saying that arrogant or egotistically. I expect everything great. I'm never surprised when I had a great marriage for 46, 47 years. I'm never surprised I raised great kids. It wasn't by luck. It was by design. I do think the hand of God's been on my business in my life, but it wasn't luck, and it wasn't never a surprise. And the same thing when something happens bad to me, 9 times out of 10, I realize I had something to do with it. But also when things happen to me good, I realized I had something to do with it. So I've never really been surprised, and I've always been expected. Therefore, I'm always prepared. So when the time does come, I expected it. So I'm prepared.
And so talk about as if we get into this thing so people can understand how you think and what your operating mindset is. Where did that come from, and how quick did that come to you as you were growing up?
No, I think a lot of that did come from as I was growing up. I grew up extremely poor. My dad used to call it poor, and I was below poor. But yet I was happy. I mean, I didn't know we were that poor because I didn't think we were that poor. I grew up with knowing the great equalizer in life was hard work. I didn't care if it came down to, whether it was getting into a fight. I remember one time as a child, I told my dad, I said, well, what do I do if a guy's bigger or stronger, tougher, and somebody he said, but don't you ever start a fight, because if you come home, you start a fight, I'm gonna whip your rear end. He said, but if you ever run from a fight, you come home, I'm gonna whip your rear end. I said, well, it sounds like I'm gonna get my rear end whipped no matter what. He said, no, you're not listening to me. He said, and my dad got killed when I was 11 years old. That's part of my, I think, hard knock story. But he said, no, he said, I'm talking about finding an equalizer. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, a brick or a rock or a stone, don't you run from anything. And that much, again, my dad got killed when I was 11, but all these philosophies in my mind, he taught me these things to never run from anything. Don't ever start anything unless it's good. But like a fight, don't start that fight, but never run from the fight. Just find a way to fight if it's worth fighting for. And so he learned to me that hard work was a great equalizer. So I learned hard work as a kid. Luckily, because if I wouldn't have learned that when my dad got killed when I was 11, I was on the street by the time I was 12, 13 years old. Well, what if I wouldn't have learned hard work? I wouldn't have been able to survive in the real world. And that served me very well in the rest of my life. Then there's other principles that my mother, he said, where did I learn it from? Well, I learned a lot of those things from my father, but I also learned from my mother. When my dad got killed, I really felt like that he was a strong person in my life, which he was, by the way, but a very uneducated man, 8th grade degree, didn't graduate obviously high school, drove a forklift, but once again, hard work, no excuses, nothing like that was tolerated, but he was a very loving, caring man, but he just, it was just a real structured type mentality. And then he dies, and my mother takes over. And I watched my mother, she was 27 years old, having to provide for 3 of us kids. We had no insurance, no investments, no money, no nothing. So we lost the house, the cars, everything. So by the time I was 12, 13, everything was gone. So I watched my mom go to work at a cabinet shop. She had a 5th grade degree. Watch her go to work at a cabinet shop. At that one day at the cabinet shop, she had been working all night long at a White Castle hamburger shop up in Indianapolis, Indiana, going to work at a cabinet shop all day long. She was fatigued that day. Her hand goes into a table saw at the cabinet shop, chops her left hand off, and she goes back to work, Larry, the next day with her hand chopped off, knowing she's got 3 kids at home that she had to provide. No husband, no money, no nothing, no skills, no education. I saw my mom do that. Well, you see that in your mind, you don't become the victim. You become the owner of your life and think, man, if I watched my mom do that and accomplish what she did in trying to raise us kids, couldn't do a very good job of it, but she was doing I learned that. Do everything you can with what you got, and things seem to work out. And that's what happened.
That wraps up this episode. Consider leaving a rating and review if you like what you heard. In addition, I have a free video for you that contains my best insights from 20 years of running my own business and also coaching $1 million earners. You'll find it at whitellonwinning.com/webinar. Thanks for listening, and do it big.